Hi everybody, I'm Ryan, and today we're going to look at how to sideboard with the new red-black aggro deck. I call it red-black Sly, that has been just tearing up Magic Online recently. Now, if you want an analysis of this deck, I did a deck tech on it last week. You should check that out. Today we're just going to be looking at how to sideboard against the top 10 most popular decks. Let's do it. So this is my red-black aggro list. It is pretty close to stock. And before we jump into the top 10 most popular decks, let's just talk about what each card in the sideboard is for. Fatal Push is for other aggro decks, especially since this deck is becoming so popular. Thoughtseize is against really removal-heavy decks or board-wipey decks. Reckless Rage is just another removal spell. It's especially good against decks where we would need to trigger Fatal Push to like have it do anything. Hazoret the Fervent is a diversification of our threats. It's really good against decks that are good at answering our creatures and decks that want to go really long, like Control or mid-range or whatever, to be able to just slam and have it be a difficult card to answer. Claim to Fame, we have 2 in the main deck, similar to us having 2 in the main deck of Reckless Rage. Claim to Fame is just one of those cards that's really good against removal-heavy decks. We can return our very few creatures, because this is essentially a prowess deck, to the battlefield, and then its aftermath is a pump spell, like a decent pump spell, just like the rest of our deck. Ob Nixilis comes in similarly when you are bringing in Hazoret, except Ob Nixilis is also good against some aggro decks because it can gain life and creates a blocker. So it works on both sides of the axis, good against aggressive decks because it gains life and creates a blocker, and also very good against the really slow decks because it's a genuine diversification of threats. And Unlicensed Hearse is our graveyard hate. Gigantha is just being played as an 8th card in our opening hand because it's pretty free. And having as many threats as possible is pretty important. So, the most popular deck in Pioneer is the Mirror Match, which is Rakdos Aggro. Against Rakdos Aggro, we're bringing in the 4 Fatal Pushes, obviously. The 1 Reckless Rage, just as much removal as humanly possible. And we're just going to be siding out of a lot of our go-long strategies. So I like bringing out the Claim to Fame. I like bringing out a few of the Callous Sellswords and bringing out the Dreadhorde Arcanist. The reason we bring out the Arcanist is really it's a card that is only good after your opponent exhausts everything and after you have a turn to attack with it once or twice. And I wouldn't rely on that in the Mirror Match. So this is how I sideboard in the Mirror. The second most popular deck in Pioneer is Izzet Phoenix. Izzet Phoenix is a bit of a weird deck because it runs quite a bit of removal while at the same time being a pretty quick deck. So we can't dilute our strategy too much, but we have to stop them from being hyper aggressive and whatever. So we're going to be bringing in the 2 Unlicensed Hearse to keep them off the Arc-like Phoenix Nut, and also it's very good against Treasure Cruise. We also, in post-board games, are kind of forced to bring in Thoughtseize because 1, they have plenty of removal, we can protect our creatures with it, and on the other side, a lot of decks are running sideboard Anger of the Gods, which can just wreck us. I think our opponent's deck is a little too fast to bring in something like Hazoret or Ob Nixilis. And while our opponent's deck has blockers, I'm not really worried about the blockers. I'd rather just pump through them and, just kill. So I'm actually going to be bringing out the Reckless Rage. I actually don't like the Callous Sellsword Fling combo against this deck because they have a lot of instant speed removal we have to be afraid of. Oh, I forgot to bring in that Claim to Fame. We like Claim to Fame a lot. And we're going to be taking out 2 Titan Strength, which I think is our worst pump spell as a whole. So this is how I sideboard against Izzet Phoenix. Third most popular deck is Blue-White Control. Against Blue-White Control, we are obviously bringing in Thoughtseizes. We are bringing in our diversified threats in Hazoret and Ob Nixilis, and bringing in Claim to Fame because a lot of Blue-White decks are now on Supreme Verdict. And if something gets like just normal countered or whatever, we are obviously bringing out our removal. We're going to shave on the combo just a little bit because they can answer what we're doing pretty easily. And then we are going to shave, or cut entirely, our worst pump spell. This is how we sideboard against Blue-White Control. The 4th most popular deck is Jund Sacrifice. The red-black Sacrifice deck, the red-black Cats deck, is now playing a lot of Ygra Eater of All, which is really cool that splash is happening. Against Jund Sac, I found that the best way to attack it is to just kill as fast as humanly possible. They have removal spells, so we're going to be bringing in the Claim to Fame, and they are about setting stuff up, but I don't think we can afford to waste a turn by Thoughtseizing our opponents against this deck. However, I am a fan of diversifying our threats just a tad. Otherwise, I want to be all in. Even so, I'm going to be cutting our Reckless Rage because I don't care what they're doing. I don't care if they play a Bloodtithe Harvester or Mayhem Devil. Reckless Rage is really bad against Yirgra, is pretty bad against Cauldron Familiar, etc., etc. And we're going to be shaving the Dreadhorde Arcanist because it dilutes kind of our main strategy, and we're just going to be all heckin' in. This is how I sideboard against Gen Sacrifice. The 5th most popular deck is Selesnya Angels, mostly as a response to this deck being, like, very good. Unfortunately, this deck has a pretty hard time triggering Fatal Push. So I don't like bringing in the Fatal Push, but Reckless Rage is an all-star against this deck. I'm also a big fan of Thoughtseize because we really have to stop them from gaining too much life. And otherwise, we have to be a super, super all-in aggro deck. Now, they aren't playing any removal to speak of. Some versions are playing like some Get Lost and Portable Holes in the sideboard. In any case, we're not a big fan of Claim to Fame, so we're going to be taking those out. However, that does make Dreadhorde Arcanist pretty good. And then besides that, we're going to be shaving some number of creatures. I like taking out 2 Emberheart Challenger. I think it's probably our worst creature unless we like actually capitalize on it like a lot. And we're going to be taking out an Ancestral Anger, mostly because it's sorcery speed, and it's really important that we kind of bait our opponents into blocking and are able to kind of blow them out with pump spells. And so, which makes Ancestral Anger a little bit worse against this deck. But this is how I sideboard against Selesnya Angels, which is probably a pretty bad matchup. The 6th most popular deck is Rakdos Midrange, which is coming back after the ban. Against Rakdos Midrange, we kind of have to treat them like a control deck. So we're going to be bringing in our Hazoret, our Obnixilis, our Claim to Fame. I'm also a fan of Thoughtseize because they're playing Massacre and Hitasugu in our sideboard. Both cards are crazy good against us. We're bringing out Reckless Rage. I don't care about their creatures. I'm just going to pump through their creatures. However, they have plenty of instant speed removal, so I'm really afraid of our actually using our combo. So I like taking out Callous Sellsword. And in a similar vein, I don't really like Dreadhorde Arcanist. And we're just going to be shaving 1 Titan Strength because it's our worst pump spell. This is how I sideboard against Rakdos Midrange. Gruul Aggro is the 7th most popular deck in Pioneer. There's a couple different flavors of this. There's a Prowessy Gruul Aggro deck and a Burning Tree Gruul Aggro deck. Both versions we're going to sideboard the same against. Obviously, we're bringing in the Fatal Pushes. We're bringing in the Reckless Rage because the name of the game is just answering what our opponent is doing and then to do our thing. So we're bringing out Claim to Fames. They don't run a ton of removal. They play like a Play with Fire, and that's pretty much it. We're bringing out a Dreadhorde Arcanist because I'd rather just be super, super duper duper fast. And then I like shaving a single Titan Strength and a single Emberheart Challenger, and that is how we sideboard against Gruul Aggro. The 8th most popular deck is Nykthos, mono green, Nykthos Ramp, whatever you want to call it. Against this deck, we are bringing in as much removal as possible because taking out the elves is pretty important, as well as the Reckless Rage because it can actually take out a little bit more than the elves are trying to jam as hard as we can. They don't play any removal to speak of, besides some versions are playing Tail Swipe or the Might Side and Pick Your Poison for Slickshot Show Off, but we're bringing out the Claim to Fame. This is a matchup where the combo is going to shine a lot. And there's an argument for Thoughtseize, but I would rather be as proactive as possible in this matchup. That being said, we're going to shave on Emberheart Challenger and then shave 1 pump spell, and that's how we sideboard against Nykthos Ramp. The 9th most popular deck is Boros Convoke. Against Convoke, we're bringing in Fatal Push, obviously, and Reckless Rage, obviously, just as much removal as possible. And really the only removal spells they have are Case in the main deck, and a lot are playing Knockout Blow and Get Lost in the sideboard, and some are playing Portable Hole. So I'm actually a fan of Claim to Fame because you do eventually have to kill them, but just be really aware because you can play around Knockout Blow in this deck. That being said, not a fan of Dreadhorde Arcanist because they're pretty fast and we really have to be able to get killing them as fast as possible as well. You're going to be shaving some Emberheart Challenger because again, they're fast. We don't have a lot of time to get a lot of value off of Emberheart Challenger. And then we're going to be shaving some Titan Strength. That's how I sideboard against Boros Convoke. And the 10th most popular deck in Pioneer, and the final deck that we're going to talk about how to sideboard against, we are playing against Hidden Strings and bringing in Thoughtseize. And Hidden Strings is kind of a weird situation where they're trying to combo really fast too, but we also have to kind of stop what they're doing. So the way I like to play against this deck is just go actual all in while having some disruption with the Thoughtseize. The matchup doesn't go long enough to bring in Hazoret or Obnixilis, so we're going to be bringing out some Claim to Fame. The big thing you have to be worried about this is 9 lives, so going wide is pretty important, but we're going to be bringing out the Dreadhorde Arcanist just because it's really hard to get value out of, and an Ancestral Anger because we don't really care about trample, and that's a big reason why it makes it good. We get to draw a card, but I don't think we have enough time, or we need to kill much faster. Then it'll make the drawing the card relevant. And so this is how I sideboard against Hidden Strings. But there you have how to sideboard against the top 10 most popular decks in Pioneer with red-black aggro or red-black sly or red-black fling or whatever you want to call it. If you like videos like this, please be sure to like and subscribe. Check me out on social medias. Links are above me and in the description. Thank you all so much for watching. I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.